Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I've never really made a video or done this before, so it'll be a learning process for all of us. However, I am going to be starting a challenge, and this challenge is going to be starting with $300 and making it all the way to 100K with no time limit. I will be documenting the whole process. You'll be seeing all the trades I execute. You'll be seeing the why, the when, and the how. So essentially what made me want to start this journey is that I wanted to show that you don't need a lot of capital in order to get the ball rolling, and the biggest aspect when it comes to trading isn't actually the making money part, it's the consistency with making gains. Essentially, if there's no consistency and there's no strategy nor program that you're following, everything is going to be a gamble. However, there are edges that you can use, for example, strategies, confluences, stuff like that that can help out. And essentially, I see a lot of people become demotivated with the idea of trading and jumping into it, and people say, well, I may not be the smartest person, so I may not be able to do it. But essentially, I'm going to go ahead and show you that it can be done by not just someone who's smart, by not just someone with capital, someone who doesn't have any money, and someone who had to start from the ground up and build their own foundation. I just want to go ahead and show that it is possible, and this is something that I've overcome myself, even at times where there was despair, when I was in a downfall. However, picking yourself back up when you are feeling that way and making sure to implement a strategy that can strategically place edges to give you the upper advantage on an idea of where the charts may be going can be all the difference. And at first I had like no risk management, and I would go based off of what I was seeing. And to be honest, that made me a lot of money, but it also made me lose even more money. So there was ups and downs with it. I knew that I had the ideas down, but I just needed to find that edge. And what made the whole difference for me in my trading journey was finding my edge, finding my strategy, building that playbook, and really just facilitating it and making sure that I stick to it and following all the rules that I've made. You know how many times I've lost money because I've either A, didn't follow my rules, or B, traded with emotion, or even just C, no risk management at all can definitely wipe an account pretty quick. So I just want to go ahead and show that it's very doable on a tight budget with not knowing much. As long as you want to persist and learn it, you can. I started off through YouTube. I didn't read any books, didn't have any mentors. I just strictly, for years, just watched YouTube videos, and from there, I was able to figure out my system and essentially get the ball rolling. So without me going on even further, let me go ahead and jump right into the video to go ahead and show you what it is that we're doing. Before I do jump into it though, I am going to let you know that every week we're going to be doing a weekly recap. So if you want just the P&L of what I'm doing on the daily, feel free to go to my Instagram. It's going to be Take Profit K. Same thing as my YouTube channel. Feel free to go to my Instagram. I'll also on my YouTube channel post shorts where you can just see the P&L. But if you want an in-depth explanation on why it is I did something or what it was that caused me to have the confirmation, I'm going to go ahead and do those through my YouTube videos. So at the end of every week, I will have a recap of all the trades throughout that week. So without further ado, let's get into it. Perfect. So let's jump into this trade. So essentially, I like to trade a break and retest strategy. I did today on QQQ, and essentially what that entails is you go to the first 5-minute candle, and the way you find your range is essentially you're going to look for the top and the bottom of that 5-minute candle, and you're going to just go ahead and make lines going out, and this right here is going to be your range for the day. So this was my range for the day. I like to do a top-down effect, so I like to start off on a higher time frame and then go down into a lower time frame, mostly because it can confirm, I wouldn't say so much a bias. I mean, it can confirm a bias, but I like to do it just because you could see a lot more of what's going on. I like to see all the fair value gaps I can. So essentially with that, I go down to the 1 minute so then I can do that. So what I went ahead and did is I look for a break and retest, so essentially a break in structure, and we do get that right here, and we do also have a fair value gap, which helped out with that. So this fair value gap is essentially what gave me the idea, okay, we might be going low for the day. So we do have this fair value gap going down under key levels, which is going to be our range. So essentially with that, I just kind of watched for anything that kind of caught my eye that I could then go ahead and trade off of. Nothing really caught my eye quite yet, but I did see another fair value gap that came up. So of course we got to pay our respects to that. So we mark it out and I'm just watching to see what happens. Essentially, I wait for this setup right here. This is where I enter. And the reason for is because it comes back to a key support being that fair value gap. And it kind of both, see how both candles just kind of touch it and it doesn't go past. No candles start off back here because it didn't make it that far. So it didn't essentially break the structure that we have, or it didn't break into back into the range. So it kind of touched that. Also, we have this red candle is engulfing this candle right here. So that kind of got my eye going, as well as we have a break and retest. So essentially break right here, came down, and then boom, our retest. So all that together kind of gave me the idea that this is going to be something that we are going to be trading within. So I went ahead right here at this exact candle. I went ahead and I bought in. And I bought in right around the bottom of the candle. I know this chart isn't perfect, but you know, we're not all perfect, so whatever. So I went ahead and we have this candle. I entered right here, and essentially I was in the trade for a little while. I was in it for about maybe like a couple hours or so, just trying to see, because as you could tell with the cues right now, it's very choppy, and to be honest, there could have been a good chance I could have gotten stopped out. For example, right here wasn't too far, and I was willing to get stopped out because I'm not scared to get stopped out. Essentially, when I get stopped out, I look at it as an opportunity to come back into the market. A lot of the time we have a bias which will go ahead and give us the idea that if we have a confirmation, then that's for sure, when in reality sometimes there's a reversal, there's a flip, things like that happen. So I like to go ahead and just watch out for if I do hit a stop. So what I like to do is if I do hit a stop, I like to go ahead and look to reverse that same strategy. So instead of going the way I was predicting to go, I'll switch it, because obviously the way I was going, if I were to get stopped out up here, wasn't in my favor. I was going to be on a losing trade, and essentially if that were to happen, if I were to get stopped out right here, well then the market's showing me that we're going potentially higher, and I would be looking towards this key level to go ahead and see if we're going to break and retest that. And essentially that's how I'll go ahead and sometimes lose on the day, but I'll still be profitable because I'll lose my first trade, but that first trade is sometimes what gives me the exact guidance I needed to see the actual direction. Sometimes there's fake outs, sometimes your fair value gaps just don't work out the way that you want it to. So essentially with that, I like to go ahead and if I do hit a stop loss, look towards doing the same strategy but reversing it this time. Okay, so back to my trade. Sorry about that. So back to my trade. Essentially, I'm sitting in here. It's a little bit choppy, and I'm watching it to go under key levels. And essentially, all of these right here, these lines right here, are going to be key levels. And I see that right here, it broke down into a key level. So I was pretty confident that we're going to keep on going down. So I stayed. What I do is I trail my stop losses. So essentially, instead of risking all my funds and just letting it sit up here, if we break into green area, I usually bring my stop loss down a little bit, just to maybe about like halfway down to right here. That way I lose less money because it's already going in my favor, and that's going to be important later in the video. So essentially I watch for this structure to continue downward going this way. And we do have a couple retests touching, like we have basically this one right here, this one right here, but none of them really were strong enough to go ahead and break through and maintain that direction. So I'm watching for it to continue on the downward, but what I am doing, because I am seeing that there is potential for it to correct due to it being a choppy day, I go ahead and, like I said earlier, stop losses are important, and trailing them is even more important. So what I go ahead and do is, because I'm not too savvy with TradingView, for some reason when I bring my stop down below where I bought in, it just doesn't go lower than that. And I don't really like to move my buy in because I like to know where I got in. So essentially I just draw these little trend lines. I know people are probably laughing at me saying like, oh, it's not like there's a way to actually go about that on trading. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I just trade. I'm sorry. So essentially, these are all stop losses. So I was happy with this key level when we broke down, and I saw the structure starting to go down. So I went ahead and I set a stop loss right here, meaning if price were to say this candle comes down and this candle were to come back up to this key level, which is where my stop loss is, then I just sell right there, and I would either A, leave the market, which is a small loss, or B, leave the market barely profitable. And that's okay. You know, not every day is going to be a big green day. So essentially what I'll do is I'll target areas. So essentially I was happy with this right here, but I saw it continuing to go downward. So I kept trailing my stop losses, bringing it down to lower points. And sometimes you have it to where these, like for example, like I was saying, if this candle were to just come back up and touch that, we're out, and that we would have just stopped right there. But sometimes you fall into a place to where the candles actually don't really do that, and they just continue downward, and you could just keep setting stops and they don't get hit. Right here, it almost got hit, and I was willing to just end the day right there, but it didn't exactly hit. I zoomed in on it, and it didn't touch it, which, to be honest, it's not the best advice to be that strict with your trading, but I was, and it worked out in my favor. So yeah, so I kept on trailing stops down, meaning for whatever. So once we hit this level, I'm watching for it to go down, and when it comes down here, I put this stop here and say if it hits this last candle, then I'm going to go ahead and sell. But it just kept going down. We even see some fair value gaps coming down here, and I just kept trailing that stop. So each one of these long lines, these green lines that you're seeing right here, they're all just going to go ahead and be a stop of some sort. Luckily for today, I had lucked out because my take profit happened to be right at market reversal. So to be honest, I got a very cherry trade today. I got in right at break of structure, and I left right at reversal. So A+ setup. Essentially, if you keep looking, if you look, it essentially goes up higher, and I could bring it to a higher time frame just so you can kind of see that. Let's bring it to the 1 hour. Let's go ahead and get to the same spot. So look, we have our trade right here. Actually, it's all marked out for us. So notice how at the bottom of the box is where I took profits. That was where I was done for the day. That was my last profit taking. Along this whole bar, I was taking profits, but I left some runners to hit all the way to down here. So if you notice, it isn't too much of a gap to where the market reversed, and I am lucky for that because there wasn't much play. However, I was able to catch this trade before market reversed, so I got out right in time, and as you can tell, market started to go back up, and that was essentially my trade for the day. What I'm going to be doing is like I said earlier, weekly recaps, and essentially at the end of every week, you're going to be able to get one video where it has all my trades for every day in there, and I'll do the same explanation like I did today, the whys, whats, and hows. However, for today's video, since this is my first video posting on YouTube, I don't want to put too much information. I don't want to blabber on too long or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just post this one video for today's day one. Today's day one, we started off with $300 and we ended off with $738 with 65 cents. Essentially, that was going to be 146.22% gain on the day. Really good, and wins like those we'll definitely take. Sometimes wins like those actually cancel out losses that you've had in the past. So trailing stops, super important. So essentially, trailing stops, they're pretty important because that's what allowed me to expand into the territories I was able to today. But thank you guys for watching my video. If there's information that you feel like was helpful, then feel free to let me know that, because then I'll go ahead and go more in depth on these videos. If I'm just kind of blabbering, feel free to let me know as well. I do tend to talk too much. But thank you for watching the video. Please like, please subscribe, please follow my Instagram. It all helps, and I appreciate you guys. On to the next day, and until then, I won't be seeing you until about Sunday, being the end of this week, to then cover the rest of the days within this week. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, guys. One last thing before you guys go, I did want to mention that I am going to be doing raffles in the form of cash prizes. So essentially, as long as you're following my Instagram, again, it's going to be Take Profit K. But as long as you're following my Instagram as well as you are subscribed to my YouTube, then if those both are intact, you're going to be eligible every time I do a raffle to win some cash. And essentially, I'm going to have predetermined areas and levels to where I'm going to go ahead and, if I make it there, send money out to people, and it is going to be different. It will be different amounts at different times. There'll be a different amount of people that will be eligible. Sometimes I'll go ahead and there'll be 3 winners. Sometimes there'll be 5 winners. It's all going to vary. However, if you don't want to miss out on that and you want to have a chance to be able to get some free cash, maybe even some free capital to start your journey, feel free to go ahead and follow my Instagram account and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you will be automatically enrolled into my raffles every time. And they are going to be essentially sporadic for you guys. However, they are predetermined for me. So as long as we can meet these goals as a family, we'll all be getting paid.